Welcome to this presentation on environmental determinants of health. Kindly note that you will discuss the topic in detail during the Basis of Environmental Health module if you have not done the module yet. For those who have done the module, this will be a revision. In this presentation, we will identify physical conditions in the environment that have an impact on human health. Take a few seconds to read the instructions on how to watch the video. While working through the slides, create a mind map or diagram to indicate different environmental factors and give one example and indicate why it needs to be addressed. Take a photo of your mind map and submit it in the discussion forum, My Personal Learning Journey, at the end of the week. Environment includes the natural environment and the environment as modified by people both in and outdoors. It is one of the most important determinants of health. Sustainable environment is needed to acquire good health. Look at the two pictures labeled A and B. Choose one and think about what the repercussions are if we do not do something about it. Unmanaged waste in the environment is also one of the main contributors to ill health. The dirty environment does not only look unsightly, but waste can be a medium for the transmission of infectious disease agents and breeding of vectors. Waste can also expose people to toxic chemicals from industrial waste, radioactive waste, healthcare waste, and many more. So it is very important that waste is properly controlled. Hygiene, sanitation, and water are important determinants of health, essential to the safe and effective provision of healthcare services. An adequate supply of fresh water is essential for individual and public health. It is central to living a life in dignity and health and upholding human rights. Many individuals, families, and communities do not have access to such a supply, and even in those places where there is an abundance of fresh water, it is threatened by pollution, activities such as industry and waste, inadequate or ineffective sanitation, and other negative forces. Waterborne diseases account for a large proportion of mortality and morbidity, especially in developing countries. These problems are accentuated in times of disasters such as conflict, nuclear and man-made accidents with oil and chemicals, earthquakes, epidemics, drought, and floods. The commodification of water, whereby it is provided for profit rather than as a public service, has potentially significant negative implications for access to an adequate supply of drinking water. The development of sustainable infrastructure for the provision of safe water and adequate sanitation contributes greatly to sound public health and national well-being. This helps in curtailing infectious diseases, reducing preventable morbidity, mortality, healthcare costs, productivity, and other ailments that are caused by unsafe water. This in turn creates a positive ripple effect on national economies. The health sector and physicians in particular play a key role in ensuring such determinants are properly managed. Look at the following pictures and think about what the repercussions are if we do not do something about the situation. The school environment is another area of public health importance. Take a look at this slide with examples of conditions in the school environment that may affect children's health. The conditions for health must be established in school policies, not just in health policies, but also in policies regarding the funding of schools. The social determinants of health must be deeply intertwined with school policies and programs on a national and local level, and even closer to home in our schools and workplaces. Environmental air pollution is also one of the major causes of ill health. For example, pollution from traffic, coal-powered power stations, pesticides, indoor pollution from coal, wood, dung, which are used for cooking and heating, and other chemicals found indoors are responsible for the increase in respiratory conditions such as asthma, bronchitis, and so on. Although transport contributes to economic development in many ways, it also contributes to a number of mortality in terms of road accidents, pollution, environmental noise, and so on. Many industries listed in this slide have an impact on the environment and also affect the health of people, animals, and plants. Governments, controlling bodies, and the global community should put in place policies and legislation to control such industries. The energy sector and other sources of energy also have their fair share to the health problems we are experiencing today. Take a look at this slide with examples of energy sources contributing to health effects. Modern food production methods have enormous environmental and human health impacts. This is due to factory farming, which is the large-scale production of foodstuff by commercial agribusiness. Some of examples of agricultural production and manufacturing issues include, and not limited to, tobacco farming, changes in land use, mechanization, fisheries, forestry, and so on. Pause the video and read through the slide. This is a continuation from the previous slide. Other issues include livestock use, the use of fertilizer, the use of water, the use of pesticides, and food packaging. Pause the video and read through the slide. Food and water are the major sources of exposure to both chemical and biological hazards. They impose a substantial health risk to consumers and economic burdens on individual communities and nations. Microorganisms such as bacteria and viruses, naturally occurring toxins, unconventional agents, persistent organic pollutants, metals such as lead and mercury, and new foods developed from biotechnology such as crops modified to resist pests, changes in animal husbandry, antibiotic use, and new food additives all contribute to health effects. Measures should be put in place to protect the individuals and the public against exposure. In recent years, we have seen an increase in vectors such as rodents. These have potential to spread diseases. Mosquitoes also contribute to the spread of diseases such as malaria. It is important not to create environments that are conducive for the spread of these vectors, as they have potential to spread diseases. When it comes to the work environment, what is the safety risk of each of these pictures? When it comes to port health, it is very important for countries to strengthen port health services in terms of surveillance of communicable diseases, especially in light of re-emerging communicable diseases and new infectious diseases. We have seen during the current coronavirus pandemic how quickly closing the borders assisted in flattening the curve. Climate change is one of the main topics of discussion today. Global surface temperatures are projected to rise over the 21st century. Due to climate change, an increase of 3 to 4 degrees Celsius in ambient temperature is projected along the South African coast, and 6 to 7 degrees Celsius inland during the next 80 years, at least partly and probably mostly caused by human activity. The impact of climate change is already seen in many parts of the world, which includes diminished and degraded potable and irrigation water, extreme weather events causing human casualties and widespread damage to homes and infrastructure, fisheries collapse and droughts, and floods impacting food supplies. We've also seen the rise in infectious diseases from yellow fever to dengue to Zika to West Nile, implicated in marine species collapse, unprecedented rates of plant and animal extinction, and extreme weather events are the topics of today. Natural disasters include earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, floods, tsunamis, hurricanes, and landslides. The extent of disaster and its toll on human populations depend on building codes, quality of infrastructure, advanced planning and preparedness, and emergency response. Usually, people with few resources are the most affected by disasters.